2022, or welcome back to Book and Prejudice. My name is Mar, and this is my 2022 in books. Now, I recommend grabbing a hot drink, grabbing, a coffee, a tea, whatever it is that you want, because this might be a bit of a long video, because I'm going to be talking about my top 10 books of the year. Now, very quickly, because I don't think this is the most important thing, in terms of statistics, I read 34 books. I don't know if you remember, but my challenge was to read 40 books, because in 2021, I read 39. Now, realistically, I knew by mid-October that this was not going to happen, so I kind of stopped trying, because I had a lot of changes this year. I had to start a new job, and that involved a lot of changes, both to my normal schedule, but also to my personal, amount of exhaustion per se. I also prioritized other things like going out for dinners or taking up new hobbies. So by October I knew that this was not going to happen, and I was so fine with it that I didn't mind too much. Also, whilst reviewing my Goodreads for this year, I kind of noticed I might be a bit too lenient with my stars. It can't be that every single book that I read is a 5-star, because only 10 made it to this list out of the 34. So there's no way. I think I need to be a bit more critical with my stars, which I guess could be a good goal for 2023, But I get very emotional. I'm like, oh my god, no. This 1 star, this book deserves 1 more star because of that one line. I'm like, no, you did not enjoy that book that much. So I think that 5-star, I'm gonna have to change my rating. When I figure out how I'm gonna do it, though, I'll let you guys know, because I have no idea right now. But anyways, I digress. Let's get into the video, starting with number 10, which is a book that I don't have because it was my friend's grandparents, and that is Hannah Kent's Burial Rites. Now, don't get me wrong, this book was excellent, and it probably would have been a lot higher had I not read another Hannah Kent book right before I read that one, which meant that I was so in love with that other book that this one was just not as good for me. However, my friend read first Burial Rites and then the other one, and in her opinion, Burial Rites was better. So, you know what? I kind of consider that Hannah Kent just wrote 2 really good books, and we just differ in opinions. Now, Burial Rites, very briefly, so that you know what it's about, it talks about the life of a woman that is put in the death row in Iceland for a murder. And you kind of follow a few perspectives. You follow the perspective of the priest that's kind of helping her through this period of life. You follow the perspective of the woman while she's in this house that she goes to wait to die. You follow her life beforehand through her own perspective. So it's quite an interesting way of speaking in the terms of it reads very jumpy, because it jumps a lot from perspective to perspective, and I guess that's the part I like least. But that being said, I thought that the story was beautiful, and it really made me want to research, because it's based on a real story. And that was very interesting too. All of that research that I did really helped bring the book to life, especially because I could find photos on the internet and everything. So yeah, and I gave that book 4 stars. So it's not like it was a bad book, it was a 4-star book. I just think that it got diluted because I read the other one, which I liked more first, frankly. In 9th place, I have Elif Shafak's How to Stay Sane in an Age of Division. It's a very short book. I love Elif Shafak. I will honestly try to read at least 1 book of hers every year. And it was a very interesting book about how we as humans are failing and where we're failing. It was written during COVID as well, so it had a lot of perspectives from COVID. And she talks a bit about how we should nurture our democracy. And, it's not an actual fiction book. It's a political text that my friend Laura gifted me. I have a little dedication and all, and I think that's very sweet. And I really, really enjoyed it. I will enjoy anything this woman writes, though. So that's the honest truth. In 8th place, I think I would put Clara and the Sun. I gave it 5 stars as well. Every book in this list, I gave 5 stars. That's what I meant when I said I was too lenient with it. I was very skeptical about reading this book. I've had this book in my bookshelves for so many years because my uncle gave it to me back when I lived in London, and this is my second year out of London, so I really enjoyed it. I didn't want to read it because I'm not a big fan of sci-fi. I'm so happy I read it though, because it was really beautiful. Like Clara as a character, I found her very interesting. It was very interesting to see the life through this naive perspective of life, whilst at the same time it being very realistic. Specifically how she's treated, I found it very interesting. And then it all spiraled a huge debate with my partner about, you know, whether we should, whether we should give people, you know, robots, like, are they gonna be part of our life in the long term? Because right now we have 2 Alexas and they are basically the family pet at this point. Like, they turn our lights on, they put our timers, our alarms, we depend on it to get to work at this point. So, you know, I found that's technically a robot. So how far are we from having artificial robot friends? I don't know. But I'm very happy I read it. I'm very annoyed that it took me so long to read it. But I read it, I loved it, I gave it 5 stars. In 7th place, there is The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. This was a Christmas gift my friend Celia gifted me. It was a signed copy, and then I wrote all over it because I don't give a crap about that. Like, some people are like, oh, don't write on it, it will like sell good. I was like, no, I'm gonna keep it. But I love this book. I honestly love the whole book, specifically the end. As more and more as I marinate on it, I find that I did not see it coming. Like, at the beginning I was like, yeah, I could have seen that coming, and then I was like, could you though? Maybe when you were reading it, but like now with perspective, I'm like, that was a good ending. I like the characters, I liked how the setting, it's very dark academia-esque, and you guys know I'm a sucker for dark academia, so this was a 5-star for me. Next, on 5th place, is the other Hannah Kent I was talking about, which is Devotion. First of all, look how beautiful this copy is. Like, it's stunning. You open it, look at that. And if you read the book, this kind of matches the vibe of the book real well. Anyways, I loved Devotion, and I loved how it was written. Like, a big part of this book takes place in a boat, and I at one point genuinely was like, I'm getting dizzy, because they were describing the boat movement so well in the middle of a storm. I was like, I'm getting dizzy now, what the heck? Because I just found it so nice. I also loved the plot twist that we had right in the middle of the book. Like, I think that's what frustrated my friend to no end. She was so annoyed by it. I thought that it added so much to the book, and I thought it was so interesting, and I thought it was so original and so different, because realistically I've never seen anything like that before, and I don't think I'll ever read something about like that. Now, I'm not someone for rereads, but if I had to reread a book from this pile, it would probably be this one. It was beautiful, it was enchanting, the main character was wonderful. Very briefly, the main character goes on a voyage from, I want to say England, it's not Prussia, England. She goes from Prussia to Australia, and the first half of the book takes place during this voyage. The second part of the book takes place when they arrive to Australia. And it was a beautiful way of describing the whole changes that she goes through, and like the scaredness and the excitement and the terror and the sadness that comes with up and leaving your whole life. But I specifically liked when they got to Australia, because that's when, more or less, that's when everything went, I don't want to say south. I mean, everything just went different direction that I was expecting, because I was so sure, as I was reading this book, I was so sure I knew how it was gonna end. I was like, oh my god, yeah, okay, this is great, this is not a good book, like, okay, like, this is quite obvious. And then suddenly it was like, wait, what? And I had to close it, and then I had to open it, reread the chapter, close it again, and I was like, I need to marinate on this. And I did not read anymore for that night. So I was like, I cannot believe what I just read. So this book was so good. Like, I put it in 5th place only because I read other really good books. But actually no, this is 6th book. This is in 6th place. I'm really bad at math. Sorry. But I definitely loved this book. I really want everyone in my life to read it. It's really good. Also, the cover is really pretty. And it's a signed edition. Again, this was the year of the signed editions, I swear to God. Because signed edition. Also, my aunt, because I put a name on every book that I read. Also, dedicated by Greg. Also, this is very nerdy, but the books were kind of stuck together, not like in a bad way, but like every time I passed the page, they would go crack, 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 crack. And I felt so accomplished with every page that now I want every single book that I do read to have that. Alas, it was the only one that had it, but it was really satisfying. Now, in 5th place, I have My Year of Rest and Relaxation. Another book that I don't own because it was borrowed by a friend. My friend and I kind of share books with each other to have one of hers. I should probably get going with reading. But yeah, no stress. But yeah, my friend and I kind of send each other a book that we've read and a book. So kind of she'll give me a book and then I'll return the book with another book in there. That's a recommendation. And she recommended to me My Year of Rest and Relaxation. I was quite skeptical. First of all, I'm very skeptical of TikTok books for no other reason that I feel like they get overhyped a lot. And second off, I did not understand it. Like, I would read the blurb and I'm like, I don't know what you're actually about. But she really spoke highly about it and I said, okay, I'll give it a shot. Worst comes to worst, I don't like it. And I'll say right now, it took me 100 pages to get into it. Once those 100 pages were done, I was hooked. I was so confused. I love a good confusing book and this book confused me. So I was pretty happy with that. But also I found it very interesting, the writing style. The main character was very flawed, which normally you do not get that as much. I feel like a lot of times the books that I read, the main character is flawed to an extent. So you can see that it's a human. But this character was just a shitty character. Frankly, it was just a bad person. She was not great. She was not a good friend. She was not a good person. She was not a good colleague. She was not a good work. She was not a good person. She was not good. She was just so inherently flawed that I like that about her. Personally, I wouldn't have faced my problems the way she did. But that might be because I can't. And it's pure jealousy. I don't know. But yeah, My Year of Rest and Relaxation. Hard name to pronounce. Get over the first 100 pages. It's an amazing book. Don't get over them. You will be missing out. I'm telling you this. Alright. In 4th place, Her Majesty's Royal Coven by Juno Dawson. This book has caused a big fight in my house with my partner because he got this for my birthday and the next one is not coming until like June, July, in the summer of 2023. And I am bitter about this. I'm bitter to no end. But I love this book so much. I liked it first of all because it was very well written, not in the sense of like the prose was beautiful, which also, but the characters were very well written. You could tell exactly about halfway through, you knew how the characters were going to react to a problem, not because it was predictable, but because you felt like you knew the character very well. Also, the story itself is very interesting. I think that Juno Dawson did a fantastic job of tackling very present issues that we're having in a fantasy world, like within like the fantastic, because obviously, at least to my knowledge, witches are not real. However, the problems that they were dealing with in this book were very real. The fights that they caused were very real. And I just think that it was a really interesting book to read. A very interesting way of presenting a very real problem. You get a lot of books that present the problem well, but they don't present them in an original way, in the way that Juno Dawson did. And you can tell that she experienced these problems herself, because she was writing with the knowledge of that only someone that has gone through this would be able to write about it. And I'm genuinely so excited for the second one to come out. But yeah, Her Majesty's Royal Coven, also fun fact. HMRC is also the tax people. So it was funny for me. Don't know if y'all find it funny. I found it hilarious. And now we're getting into the best 3 books of the year. And it took me so long to decide which one was in which order. So please be aware, these are interchangeable. Because I changed my mind 4 times about which book should be first, which book should be second, and which book should be third. This is what I arrived into. I think I'm okay with it. I don't love it. I would personally put all of them at the same level. But for the sake of the video, we shall move on. In 3rd place, we have Bunny by Mona Awad. Listen, I'm gonna start. This book, when you start reading it, you're like, oh, dark academia aesthetic. It's also potentially a critique of like toxic female friendships. It could be the fight between the women that are girlier versus the I'm not like other girls girl. And then about halfway through, you're like, wait, what? Not because there's a big plot twist, no. Because it's like, you're like, what is happening here? Like, without spoiling everything, suddenly, like, everything that you thought you knew about the book, you're like, oh, you were absolutely wrong. And by the end of the book, you're like, what even are you talking about? Now, it doesn't have the highest ratings in Goodreads. But you remember that book club that I was telling you about with my friend that we send books to each other? She texted me, she said something. She left it in a post-it. Thank you for showing me my fave book to date. It's so open to the interpretation. I interpreted it one way, right? And when I spoke with my friend about it, she was like, oh, I thought it was this. And I was like, absolutely not, it was this. And I think that that's why a lot of people don't like it, because no, I haven't seen 2 people think that it ended the same way. Personally, I always go the fantastic route. She went more the mental health route. I don't know if that's spoiling anything. I don't think so. I hope it's not. I'm sorry if it is. Regardless, it was so freaking weird. Like, I don't know what I read. Like, halfway through the book, I remember just turning to Greg, to my partner, and just being like, I don't think I'm smart enough for this book, if I'm very honest with you. But in the end, I think I loved it. I genuinely loved it. And the only reason it's not higher is because there's 2 other books that I loved equally as much. But yeah, Bunny, if you read this book, please tell me what you assume the ending is. Because it won't be the same as I do. And then I'll tell you what I think the ending is. And then we can both be very confused by the ending itself. Made no sense to me. Now, in 2nd place, I already spoke about this author, Elif Shafak. I love her. I really do. I really wish I could meet her. I really wish I could speak with her. The book is The Island of Missing Trees. And it takes place in between 1974 Cyprus and present London. Just so you can see where this book is going. One of the main characters, and I do mean the main characters, is a tree. Why? Because but it works. This is the thing though, like you think like, oh, that's weird. It probably doesn't work. It does though, because it narrates sort of the past life of 2 of the main characters. So it kind of follows a teenage couple who fall in love in Cyprus, but they're not allowed to fall in love. And then they kind of move to London, you know, make their life, and the tree follows them, and it's so beautiful, and I don't want to spoil it, but it's so beautiful. And like the setting, the good thing about Elif Shafak is that no matter what book you're reading, no matter if you've never been to Cyprus, you'll feel like you go to Cyprus and you know the city and you know the place and you know the tavern and you know the people. She writes in such a fantastic way that I couldn't put it down. I think I read it in like 3 days. It was captivating. I'd say it wasn't as good as 10 minutes 38 seconds in this strange world, because I just thought that was a very original book itself, but it is a close second. She's a fantastic author. I honestly think I will read everything she writes for as long as she's writing. Because not only does she write wonderfully, but she does very well, very intricate stories, and that's very hard to do. I think it's very hard to properly do complex stories and complex lifestyles. So yeah, this was my second book of the year, my second favorite. It was a 5-star. I would have given it like a 15-star though, if Goodreads allowed. But first, let's get to those 3.5 stars, because I really want to have the half ones. And last, I'd say this is my favorite book of the year, and I can say this somewhat confidently because I am not one to change my mind. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. It is Mad Heights, The Comfort Book. This is not a book. This is not like a fiction book. This is not like a normal book. This is sort of like the kind of book that comes in like little passages like this. And this has been with me. Sorry, I have Post-its to keep them all in order because I don't have the best memory. And it just kind of is a mixture of everything that helped him through a really rough time. And although I didn't go nearly in as bad of a situation as this guy was in, because he had it rough, and just reading a few pages every day, every night before I went to bed, it really did cheer me up. It really made me happy. It made me feel very cozy. It made me feel very calm. It made me feel like everything was going to be okay. It made me feel comfort. My favorite part of the book was a small quote that they had, which was, "Nothing is stronger than a small hope that doesn't give up." And I clinged into it when I was looking for a new job and I couldn't find anything. I clinged into it because I just found it to be so true. Yeah, I don't know. I there's some parts that I didn't really care for. Like, there's a list of his favorite films, and I just didn't care for that part as much. But then there were some really beautiful. It's sort of like a reflection of his life, and I think that this is wonderful. This is a wonderful, wonderful book, and it's going right back into my nightstand for 2023. I plan on reading this every year, I think, because by the time that I had finished it, I could not remember too well the beginning ones. So that means I get to read it again, and I'll read it again and again until I can recite them, I think. But yeah, this is my #1 book. I loved it. Again, side edition. Don't know why I have so many of these, but I have them. It's also from a bookshop called Libreria. It's in London. Let me see if I can find it. And they do the old-timey stamp. Definitely recommend going there. But yeah, I guess those are my top 10 books of the year. I could probably sit here and talk about all of these books for hours and hours, but that would be boring for everyone. Like, I don't think I would watch that video. So, but I really think that I read some wonderful, beautiful stories this year. I think that every book in this list specifically has taught me something. Not just entertained, but actually taught me in an entertaining way. Which is something that I don't think I had last year. So even though it was less books, it was a lot more thought-provoking. Yeah, that's exactly what I meant to say, thought-provoking. And I'm very happy to share these books with you, and I'm very confident that no matter what book you were to pick from this list, you would be in love with it. Except for Bunny. You might hate Bunny. Bunny's weird. But if you don't find it weird, then you will love it too. And I think that's all for today's video. One of my New Year's resolutions is to be more consistent here, and I actually have come up not only with a plan, but with like some really fun content ideas. So I'm very excited to kind of go through those and talk more about books and books that make me happy. And yeah, I will upload next week a video talking about my reading goals and the books that I want to read in 2023. But until then, I will speak to you guys very, very soon. If you like this kind of content, don't forget to go and subscribe to my Instagram page. It is @Book and Prejudice. And I will see you guys very, very soon with another video soon. Bye bye!